And I'm Amy, and I am a compulsive eater. And I like you, maybe all of you at this moment, weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the gray sheet. I write my meals down and I commit them to my sponsor. I don't eat in between, no matter what, and abstinence is the most important thing in my life. And my abstinence date is December 30th, 1989. That was supposed to be 90 days. That was a 90-day plan. It's turned into 30 years. And I think that's an important thing at this moment to say, because, there's so much, you think so many things we think we know, and we don't, we just don't. And it's so important to keep, for me, to keep the drugs for me, which is the food, out of the way. Keep the food out of the way so I can hear what I'm supposed to do next, so I can feel it. And gratefully, 90 days worth of gray sheet abstinence gave me enough. It wasn't just the abstinence, but it was also the people. And I'm noticing that I'm loving seeing all your faces. Like, there's a lot of faces on this meeting. There's a lot of people here. There's a sense of energy among all of everybody being here, the size of the meeting, that it's that and the food being in the right place that made me stick around. So there is something to really be said for just days, contiguous days, of gray sheet abstinence. And yeah, I was just reading something. I don't read much, but so I always like to qualify that, like, as though I'm a reader. I'm not a reader. I really don't enjoy reading anything really. Short, tiny things I do, but I was reading this little blurb that had it, because it came from the rabbi. I'm not sure. Maybe that's why. And I'm feeling kind of, out there. But it was just talking about all this chaos and uncertainty that we're in. And it's just, that's the way it really always is. But we just don't know it. We're just not paying attention. We don't feel that uncertainty. We just are feeling it now. But really don't know anything more on a regular day than we know now. So it was just really good for that perspective. I'm sitting at work, as you see, and I'm an administrator at a school, and we just decided to close for 3 weeks, which I can't imagine actually happened. It's completely, it doesn't even seem real. I'll be working, and there's all kinds of work to do, but now my kids are out of school, and I don't know. I think I won't dwell on this part, because this is the only reason I can be okay to this moment about it, is because I am clean and sober, and I don't think it's the whole of everything. Like, it's not everything. I have a sanity today. But anyway, so I'm not really sure what's going to come of all of it. But my dad was a survivor, and he had two things he always said. He would always say things like, "You'll see," and I'd be like, "Okay," or "It's going to work out. It's going to be okay." And I don't know where he got that, but I really have that. I'm sort of optimistic, generally, like in my fundamental self. And I've been accused of it by really not nice people, like, "Oh, you're so, you're not even realistic." And it's like, whatever. So I've been a compulsive eater ever since I could get up onto the kitchen counter. And on the kitchen counter is everything that makes you feel better. That's what I found out at probably the age of 3, however old I was. But I will always remember climbing on those counters, because I'll always remember this one time I got really hurt climbing on the counter and slipping off the cabinet door on the bottom, slipping off and falling down with my legs on both sides of the cabinet and hurting my, genital area in a way that, it was so brutally, like, just bruised. I was bruised really bad. So, not like, but not being able to tell anybody because of why it happened. And what was I doing up there anyway? And so there I was, like, I couldn't even walk. And I was a little kid. I don't think I was 3. I was probably a little older than that, 5, 6 maybe. Anyway, those are, that's kind of like the beginning of the story, kind of like the beginning of the, I know in Spanish we can start an exclamation sentence with the exclamation point. That's kind of how it all started. And I just went on through my life, that I remember, with food being the salve of all, to end all salves, just really a comfort when, I know now I had a clinical diagnosis, and I bet if we knew what we know now, it would have been easily pegged. And just a million things, that just made it so much better to eat because I felt better. I mean, I felt better in the moment, but then after, and then after, in the moment, because I didn't ever feel good. I felt so much self-loathing, but I did start to put on weight, and then that outer manifestation took off, and I'd say around the age of 9. And so by the time I was 13, I was 200 pounds. And, I was always obese on the chart. Even when I was littler, like the doctors would just write obese. And I was precocious as a kid. And, I wasn't afraid to look at what the doctor was writing. And there it was. And, just one gigantic humiliation of life, Yeah, and again, the carbohydrates were a drug, and yeah, there's more I can say about all that. But I did find I did do a lot of diets, and it was the 70s, and so many of the diets that many of you did when you were older than I did them when I was like a pre-teenager. Whether it was the little square things, or the blender things, or the fruit I will never eat on gray sheet things. And I mean, I don't want to eat on gray sheet. Just like, I mean, I did it all. And then I went to Weight Watchers when I was in the 4th grade. And so, basically the weight was a project from the earliest age. And so by the time I was in high school and I was 235, 240, like that, I'd really basically resigned from dieting. It was kind of just how I was. I was Big Ames, in the neighborhood. I grew up in the city of Chicago, and, we were kind of working class kids, and I'm not really sure how I broke out of that, but I did. But I was, I had my windbreaker, and it said a Big Ames on the back, and, that was me. So long story short, my dad had gotten into AA when I was 8. And so somehow the 12 steps had snuck their way into our household. Of course, that to me is grace. And my parents, who didn't pay any attention to me, told me about a place I could go, which was a treatment center, which was a care unit hospital in LA that was an OA run place. And I didn't know anything about it. There was some place I remember, maybe some of you remember, and I'm pretty sure I got this right. Was it Duke University that had the fat farm thingamajigger? Okay, I see some nodding. And I always wanted to go there because I thought, God, if somebody could just help me get the fat off. I didn't understand, of course I didn't. To say I didn't understand that there was a connection between my eating and my weight is an understatement, or that there was a connection between my feelings and my eating. Although there are people, many of you, who have shared that you ate around feelings, that you knew that there was a connection. I didn't know there was a connection. So I just was eating, and then all these feelings were over here. So long story short, I thought that this kind of maybe was that kind of place. I was 17, and I showed up, and I met a woman at the airport. She met me at the airport and handed me a big book. And she was just this slim, sort of regular looking person. And I thought something was really wrong with this picture. And that was really when I can pretty much be sure that I was not in Kansas anymore in terms of whatever was going to happen next, because it wasn't going to be a diet place. And on one hand, that was frustrating, but on the other, I don't know. But I went to this treatment hospital in LA, and it was just an OA thing. And it was all the counselors were therapists that were OA members. So it was a really unique environment. Thank you, Matthew, I see that. And it taught me that I wasn't, well, just generally, super simple to say. Maybe I didn't get it deeply in my heart, but I got it intellectually that it wasn't my fault. And that was all I needed, was to get it intellectually, that the way I ate wasn't my fault and that I didn't have a lot of choice in the matter. And then I went on for 7 years in OA with into college, out to Massachusetts, and I was a speaker at the World Service Conference in 1985. I wasn't even that old. How old was I? 20. And then I got the job of my dreams and moved to Manhattan, and everything started falling apart. You know, I didn't have support. OA was in shreds. There was no structure. People weren't doing food plans. I had no sponsor. And I knew about Big Gray Sheet, and I'd gone to a Gray Sheet meeting in Cambridge once. And I remembered that it was like what I remembered from like my first 2 years of OA, where it was like hardcore. And so when it came time, God knows how, I just saw on a meeting list, it said, it was an OA meeting, it said Gray Sheet meeting in St. Bart's Church Saturday morning. And I got on the subway from Queens, and I went to this meeting, and I took a sponsor, and the rest is history. Now, is it history, or, you know, I don't even know. Like I said, I was planning to be here for 90 days, but what I saw in the room, something I had not seen before. I saw people talking about no matter what, and I saw people who had what I wanted, but it wasn't what they were saying, it was just how they were acting. And because they were saying things that were just regular things that are hard, you know. I mean, some of them were saying things that weren't that hard, but mostly, you know, and mind you, there were like people of all levels of 1 day, 4 years. Back then, there were only maybe a few people who had around 10 years, maybe not even in that room. And I just snuck. I mean, I just stuck. And sometimes, you know, and what I did was what I do now, which is I just do the service. You know, when somebody asked me to help to do something, I realized after the beginning, you know, those first days were really chaotic. I mean, I still have my very first food book, and it looks like hieroglyphics. I mean, it was a big mess. I mean, so whenever you guys, if you're new and you're talking to me, I know, you know, we don't come in here on the wings of victory, and I sure wasn't. And we got a lot to clean up, you know, and we do help each other with that. I did things that I still know are absolutely what we have to do, which are like, we have to work the steps, but we don't have to work them fast. Like, don't even think about the steps for like a really long time. That's my advice, unsolicited. But what I did, I'm going to say this because I know I have like hardly any time left, is that basically my weight, I'm about 100 pounds lighter. I've basically kept that range for most of my 30 years, except for a period where it was like a year where I went up like 20 pounds that I almost still don't really know why, but it was a hard time, but I think I know why. I think it was medication. I think it was emotion. I don't know. But I never stopped doing what we do in terms of trying to keep the perspective, because it was upsetting, you know. But upsetting, not 1 minute, thank you. Upsetting not because of my body, because I was okay with it. It was more about being like afraid. Like, what does it mean? Like, is it going to stop? Am I going to not be okay in Gray Sheet? But what I wanted to say, what did I really want to say? Oh, it's just that, well, when I got abstinent, I was 24, and now I'm 54, and things just fly out of my mind, and I have no freaking idea what I was going to say. So I will just tell you that I love my food. I've never stopped loving my food. Oh, I know what it was. It's that I thought I was going to starve. And still I think sometimes I'm going to starve. And it's not about starving. It's about being alone or being abandoned or being like not having the solution, the answer. Thanks, man. I see that. But, you know, there's just nothing that if, you know, if I stay right in here and really the middle of the pack, that's what's kept me. That's truly is what's kept me. So anyway, Thanks for everybody being here. Look at all of you. I'll keep coming back. Thanks.